In this video, I'll be showing how you can regenerate resources, and there's one special case that you might have not think about at first that this solution is actually going to be good for. So in the previous video, I showed how you can save the state of an object, and for that I used resources. Now, for resource, you might think that is kind of an overkill of saving the state of the resources, but there is a case where you actually want to do it. So for instance, if you have a resource that is very rare and you want it to appear only once in an hour, if you just create a timer that will respawn that resources in an hour, you might get an unwanted case where the player is going to be cheating by turning off the game and turning it back on, and the resource is going to appear because you have not saved the state of the resource and exactly what time it needs to spawn. So that is a case where you actually would consider saving the state of the resources in a saved variable. That is what I'm going to be showing here, how you can do that and all the setup that you need to do to make that work. So before we get started, there's some units that we need to add to Bolt or Visual Scripting. First, I'm going to show how you can do it with Bolt, and then I'll show how you can do it with Visual Scripting. So you can go to Tools, Bolt, and click on Unit Option Wizards. Go down, click Next, and go down again. And here, let's add. And what we're looking for is date time. This is the units that we want to add. This will give us the option of getting the system time, so we can save the actual time. Click Generate, and that's going to generate the units for us. For Visual Scripting, it's similar. So you go to Edit, Project Settings, click on Visual Scripting, and under here, we're looking for Type Options. Scroll down, click Add, and search for Date Time. Click Regenerate Units, and those units are going to be available for you to use. The place where I'm going to use them is right here instead of Boolean. So what I'm going to look for is Date Time, and I'm looking for Get Now. Get Now is going to give me the current time. Now the actual value that I want to save is the next time when you can regenerate this resource. So for that, I need to add some time to now, because I'm going to be saving that on Destroy. So whenever you collect that resource, I want to store the next time when you can create this resource. And the date time has some things that we can use. So what I'm looking for is adding time. I'm going to use seconds, but you can use hours, days, or whatever units you want to add. For value, I'm going to put 5. That's going to be 5 seconds. And I'll save that variable right here. With this change, we still can run the game, and the game is going to function just like it did before, because the only thing that we were checking is if the variable exists or not. So now if I go and mine this resource, refresh the game, that resource disappears. Now we need to add some more logic here that will check if enough time has passed since we set that variable so that we can show that resource again. So let's get our saved variable now. We're going to use the same ID here, and we'll pass it into a datetime compare unit. This one right here, for T1, we'll pass the date that we saved. And now for T2, we're going to pass in the current date. The output is an integer, so we'll have to compare it with an integer. If it's greater or equal to 0, that means that our saved time is actually greater than the current time, so we still don't want to regenerate a resource. To add this check here, we'll use an AND and combine both those Boolean logics, and we can run and test it. And that resource that we tested with, you can see that it appeared again. So we can mine it again. And if I refresh, 5 seconds has not passed yet. That resource is gone. If I refresh again, those 5 seconds passed and the resource is here again. Now I have to restart the game for it to show up because we don't have the logic of respawning the resource. So let's quickly try to fix that. So currently I'm just destroying the game object after we have mined it, and I want to actually disable it instead. What I'm going to do is create some custom events, one for enable and the other one for disable. For my setup, I need to use set active, and instead of using self, I need to set active to the child. So let's get child, because the image of my rock is attached as a child. And also I want to set box collider, set enable to false, because the box collider is attached to this game object. So that's how it's set up for mine. For your setup, it might be different. And for enable, I want to do the same thing except the opposite. So now that we have those custom events, we can replace destroy with disable. So on true, we'll trigger the custom event, disable, and on false, we're going to trigger the custom event, enable, so that our resource is actually going to be created. Now, currently this check is done only on start, but we need to have a timer or something that will be checking this whenever our object is disabled. So on disable, I'm going to add a timer. Let's actually check every 2 seconds. And after the timer is complete, we're going to run this check. If it's still disabled, it's going to trigger this timer again. And that's going to be our loop for checking if enough time has passed for our resource to respawn. And once it goes to enable, the loop is going to stop. Now there is one more place where I actually destroy this game object. So we'll have to go and change that as well. So if I click resource, my other script, after it triggers the custom event destroy, it actually destroys. And instead of that, I'll trigger the disable event. Now, after we disable, I also need to reset my health of the rock so that when the resource appears again, we start with full health. I'm just using the health system of how much times you need to hit the rock to be able to mine it, but that might be different for you. So with that, we can actually test it out and see if everything is working like it should. So let's mine this resource. Wait for 5 seconds. And there we go, that resources appeared again. And if we mine it and restart the game, you can see that the resource didn't appear, but if we wait for a little bit, you can see that it appears again. So with this setup, you're preventing players from being able to cheat. You can use exactly the same approach for something like daily chests or some kind of prizes that you give out in your game. If you found this video helpful, be sure to click on that like button, and I'll see you in the next one.